Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to Our Issues Birmingham. I'm Tommy Spina. Today's guest is Barnett Wright. Hey, Barnett.
Mr. Spina, how are you, sir?
Good to see you again.
Always good to see you.
Barnett is the executive editor of Birmingham Times newspaper and has been a guest with us a number of times, but this is his first visit back since we've returned to the studio because we did some Zoom shows, and then before that we were in our tiny little studio over off of Valley Road.
I like this. It's nice, little comfortable, and tables, and so it's good to be here.
Feels like real television, doesn't it?
Well, anytime I'm with you, it feels like real television.
No. Well, okay. All right. So we're in the end almost of 2022. We made it.
Yes.
We're making it.
Right.
Can you give us kind of an overview of what's happened over the past, say, 10 months, at least 11 months in our city? And then we'll sort of drill down on some specifics as we move along.
Well, of course, I think the big thing was the World Games.
I knew you were going to say that.
I had to talk about the World Games. That coming here, it put Birmingham on the map. It was very successful.
Well, everybody gave it a bad rap post World Games because of the financing piece.
Right. So let's unpack that. Let's talk about the games themselves, and then we can talk about the finances, the debt, the $14 million. So the games themselves are very successful. You had people from around, athletes from around the world who came into Birmingham, positive experience. Some of the competitions were different, like breakdancing. You know, you had world class. Huh?
I was in that. I was dressed in costume, but I wasn't actually.
Whatever costume you had, it was wonderful because it was hard for them to choose, who was the best breakdancer.
It was amazing.
Takes a lot of different skill to do that. There was one athlete who did breakdancing on his knuckles. He did the spin on his knuckles.
Ouch.
I know. I can barely hold my knife and fork at dinner, and here's this guy. So you had that. The softball, another highlight is the U.S. won, and the place was packed. At the Hoover Met was packed, right, both for the semis and for the finals. So that really carried a lot. So you had all kinds of different disciplines. You had the out at the canoeing, out at Oak Mountain State Park. So it was an area-wide event, and it was an area-wide success.
And it was globally watched.
Yes.
And brought attention to the city of Birmingham that doesn't have a numerical value that you can assign to that.
Right. The advertising, okay, you can't put a price on that because people got a chance to see the city. And also the visitors came away with very positive experiences. I'm a transplant. I'm up from Philadelphia, been in Birmingham now.
Congratulations on the World Series.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. And then the Eagles are undefeated. So
you're having a good year.
Having a great year. Very excited. If we can get the Sixers to get their act together, I think we're going our way. But when people came here, the hospitality, that's a real thing in the South. People are genuinely nice in the Birmingham metro area. And I think that's what a lot of visitors found, was that it was very, very welcoming from all of the residents.
Yeah, I know. I attended the opening ceremonies, and the reception for the Ukrainian team was just phenomenal, how they embraced that. So, to the financing piece.
Yes.
I don't know if this is a good way to say this or not, but I'm going to do it. A lot of the money was spent on security because we had tremendous security. Yeah. Do we have security overkill, or is there such a thing?
Yeah. I don't think you could ever have a security overkill. I think one of the successes of the games was the fact that people came here and there was no incident. We've had, looking at our history, we've had events here that cast us in a negative light for decades. I'm talking about 1963. The worst thing that could have happened was that we had an incident here, and then it left a negative mark on Birmingham, Alabama. So no, I don't think you could ever put too much on security. I just think that perhaps better planning as far as with the finances, how much it was going to make, especially the income. I think the problem was that the revenue coming in was not what was expected. I don't think, based on what I've heard, is that the number of visitors, they weren't able to attract as many visitors, bringing in some of the economic impact, having people come into Birmingham, spend money, stay at the hotels. Remember, all the athletes, they stayed for free at UAB, they stayed for free at Birmingham Southern. So a lot of the hotel rooms didn't sell as much as they had expected.
Are we coming out of that? Did we find a way to pay ourselves out of that?
Yes, it's my understanding that the city council, the city of Birmingham, Jefferson County, both came up with $5 million each. And I think the remaining $4 million would come from the corporate community.
Okay, so we're going to get it together ultimately in terms of getting the vendors paid and the people that need to be paid, particularly something near and dear to me, the musicians.
Yeah, I think we're well on our way. If not, I think that it may be time for a bake sale.
Well, maybe that's our next move.
That's the next fundraiser.
Can we get that?
Can we get what?
Globally promoted, like a bake sale on a national level?
Perhaps? I think that would be a great idea. Have each country, submit their favorite food item, right, and then sell it. I mean, what's native to it?
We'll take a short break and we'll come back and talk some more about the city of Birmingham. Thanks for enlightening us on that.
Of course.
On the issue with the World Games. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We're going to take a short break. I'm Tommy Spina. We'll be right back with Barnett Wright. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. I'm talking to Barnett Wright. We talked about the World Games and its economic impact, the upside, the downside on the city of Birmingham. That's a good thing that we've dealt with this year. A bad thing that has happened this year is the increase in gun violence that we've experienced. How are we ever going to fix that? I mean, it's not just us. It's worldwide, probably even global. We don't hear about it from other places, but for a while there, every day we were waking up to not just one, but more than one death by guns in our communities, and generally speaking, amongst the young people.
Right. Yeah. So we look back at 2022. So we talked about the good. One thing that we have to acknowledge and address is the gun violence, as you say. This is a worldwide conundrum. It seems like it's on the increase. So let's talk about Birmingham. Birmingham is on a record pace. We're about to have, unless it slows down in the last 2 months of the year, we're going to have a record number of homicides in Birmingham, Alabama.
In excess of 130.
That's correct.
I think.
That's correct. So I'm going to say about 140 possibly. I hope I'm wrong. So that's the trajectory we are on right now. That's the direction we're going in. And what is the solution? Well, if there were a solution, then we would be able to curb it or curtail it. So that's the challenge. One of the things that we have done from the media perspective, the Birmingham Times and AL.com have formed a partnership where we're looking at gun violence. And we're looking at some of the root causes of gun violence. And this is going to be an ongoing series to talk about what's happening in our communities. We've already had an in-depth interview. Carol Robinson did an in-depth interview with Chief Thurman, Scott Thurman. So we have that part of it. We've also looked at residents. We spoke to people living in the communities and asked them what are some of the problems that they see and some of the solutions that they have. So let me say this. I think one of the things that came out of some of our reporting is that residents have to be more involved with their own communities. Yes, we have police, okay, and I believe police are doing everything they can. I'm not one of those guys who say defund the police or the police are the problem. I don't believe that. You know, I support law enforcement. I believe they're doing everything that they can. I think elected officials are doing everything that they can also. I mean, they represent the constituents. They don't want to lose their constituents. They don't want to see the gun violence. So I think they're doing everything that they're doing. So that leaves, in a lot of ways, the community. Residents have to be, and this is not to point finger or point blame, residents have to be more involved in the safety of their own communities. If they see something, they know who those individuals are, they need to find a way to get that information to the police. You live there every day, you know who some of the bad actors are, you need to go out and you need to share that information with law enforcement. Or I don't think there's anything wrong with pulling somebody aside if you see this in your community and having a conversation with them and you trying to have a one-on-one conversation with them in the community. Now, that's not to say that you can stamp out all violence, okay? But you can have conversations, you know, sometimes peer-to-peer conversations are good. So I think those are some of the things that can be done in our communities. And our reporting showed that the biggest impact sometimes happens within the communities.
Are we getting into the, I would say, high schools, which is where I believe the age group begins to think that conflict resolution is best dealt with violence?
Yeah. So
don't you have to start early?
So when you say high schools, I think it has to be done before that. Because by the time they get to the high school, some thought processes are already embedded in some of these students. So I think if you can start earlier, start them conflict resolution as early as elementary school, get that into the students, that you resolve problems, you don't have to fight, you don't have to argue, that you can, that there's a way out, that you can resolve it without getting physical, without violence. I think once you teach that to them at an early age, that's something they can carry with them for the rest of their lives.
Well, while we talk about it, is it happening? In other words, are you aware of things that are being done along the lines of what you just said?
I think it can be, and I think that's a great point. Mayor Randall Woodfin just announced an early childhood education initiative, $1 million. And this is for children under 5. Now, I know this helps them to read, this helps expand their vocabulary, but I think that's a start, okay? Having them educated, okay, at preschool, okay? And no, you're not gonna talk about conflict resolution, but you'll give them an appetite, these children under 5, an appetite for education. And as we all know, education is the way out, okay? As you take your education seriously, as you go through elementary school, middle school, junior high school, if education is your focus, okay, it keeps you out of trouble.
Well, it's a problem. I know in my own office, I have more cases than I've probably had in 45 years that arise from a road rage situation where somebody breaks in front of someone else and the reaction is to fire off a weapon. Maybe nobody's hurt, but it still does it. Hold that thought.
Okay.
It's a mess. It's not going to be fixed overnight. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. We've been talking about a subject that's affects us all, even though it may not be happening in our neighborhoods precisely. It affects us all, and that's the gun violence. So, you know, we have our Second Amendment righters, and we don't want to intrude upon the right to bear arms.
Right.
But at the same time, we've got to do something to get the guns out of the wrong people's hands, at least.
Right.
So what do we do?
So, you know, you talked about road rage incidents, right?
Yeah.
And you talk about somebody just pulls out a gun and starts
Shoots it off in the air, shooting the back of the car.
Right, yeah.
It used to be just a hand signal made.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about.
So I think the police have done a great job of getting guns off the streets. Okay, so that's a start. Okay, whatever steps they've had, I think they've collected more guns off the streets this year than they had previously during the previous year. You know, that helps. I don't know if that addresses all the problems.
No, they just keep coming.
Yeah,
there are lots of guns out there.
Right. So, and I think the city has been very aggressive in talking about some of the legislation, you know, about guns. And I think you know this too. The scary thing is, I believe that you don't need a permit for guns anymore.
In January, I think.
Beginning in January. Okay.
It's the Wild Wild West all over again.
So I'm not trying to be pessimistic here. So I think people are bracing for that, but that's going to be a more major concern. I just think that the legislature has to find ways, and I know it's Republican controlled, and they're talking about the Second Amendment. I think that there has to be a way to think about measures in order to curtail the influx of all these weapons in these communities.
You know, just as an aside, not to be hysterical about this issue, but the violence that we're seeing on the routine basis is really within a relatively small segment of our population.
Correct.
I think.
Correct.
And when I say small segment, and when you're talking about gangs and things of that nature,
absolutely,
you're talking 100 or so people.
Right.
And law enforcement is well aware of who they are and where they are, but they can't just be there all the time. Right. And be able to drop a net on them and have it stop overnight. So be patient is what I would say.
And one last point I'll make about that, not to mention, some of these are domestic violence related.
Happen within the home.
It happens within the home. So we're talking about all the violence out here on the streets, you know, but you have a great point there, okay? This distracts from all those law-abiding citizens who are trying to make this a better place for everybody, who wants to live their lives in safety and doing whatever they can to improve the quality of life for Birmingham, Alabama.
Which includes good, expensive water. We have to have our water.
Okay.
And speaking of water, what's going on with the Waterworks Board?
You know, that's been a question that has been asked for the last 3 decades.
That's economic violence.
You know, so right now, and I don't know how long this is going to be, but so the chairman recently resigned.
He tried to, and he did, but he tried to pull a Tom Brady.
Right. And then but the difference is, eventually the chairman went away. Okay, Tom Brady is never going to go away.
I don't know.
And he's the GOAT.
I think Mrs. Brady's got him by the throat.
Tom Brady, without question, is the greatest quarterback in my mind of all time. You know, but at the Waterworks Board,
he's my fantasy football quarterback, and he's not done very well so far.
Well, just think you could have Aaron Rodgers. Okay.
Yes, he's not done well either.
No, but the water board, you know, is depending on who the board members are. And I know Jabbo Wagner, the eminent state senator
From Batavia.
from Batavia, okay, you know him well. They expanded the board.
They did.
And it just almost caused more division because it fractured along city lines, over the mountain lines, suburban lines, and some of the confusion continued.
Yeah.
There was talk about bringing Mac Underwood back.
Right.
Did he come back?
He came back as a consultant to look at their rates. I think he did a study, a report on the billing issues.
Do you know that they don't have remote readers at the Birmingham Waterworks Board, which is like 19 18 technology.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem, right? So you would think that somebody there would have said that we need remote readers. Speaking of Mac Underwood, he came back, had a report. We looked at the billing issues. Remember, there were people who were getting bills. They weren't even in their houses and they were getting $400 bills. Or they were getting bills that were 4 or 5 months late. So he came back with a report, I think, that would help rectify that particular problem. They have many of them, okay? That's just one.
Well, I understand that the power company has offered to the Waterworks Board an opportunity to piggyback off of their remote readers. But the Waterworks Board hasn't taken them up on that, and I don't understand the logic there. And maybe it's because it is illogical.
Yeah. I think in the future, I know we're wrapping up now, I think it'll be really nice to invite somebody from the Water Board. Michael Johnson is the current general manager. I would invite him to this table here and ask him some of those questions.
I think I might do that. If I can get him to come, I don't know.
Yeah.
Michael, if you're watching, give me a call, please. I'd love to have you on there, and I know our viewership would like to hear more about the problems at the Waterworks Board.
Or the solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being with us as always. Time flies when you're having fun.
I know.
It's okay. We'll have you back.
You know, tell you what, why don't we expand our show to an hour and then we can
You'll have to talk to management on that.
Okay.
I don't get to make those decisions. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next week.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
I've taken 25 selfies in the last 10 minutes.
26.
Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
When I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. Now I'm anything but lonely.
We have this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with Turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet,
We discover
they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure
love.
I am blind, but I need not see. I know this road is there for me.